Hello again. Hope you're all enjoying the forum thus far. We have now a group of panelists. Jay, Ashley, and Mark all are individuals that work for organizations that are on the data-centric journey. And we're going to be asking them questions about lessons learned, successes, challenges, things to be looking out for. So a very dynamic session. Take it away, Mr. Dave McComb, for the moderation.
Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Dave McComb, and it's my pleasure to host what I think is going to be a very exciting panel. You might recall in my opening comments, I suggested that this move to data-centric is both essential and also at the same time elusive. And the elusive bit is it's harder to do this than it first sounds. But luckily, I've got three people here on the panel who've had experience actually doing this, and we're going to work through, lessons learned, what they've done, how it went, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Hi, so my name is Ashley Faith. I was asked to introduce myself, so I'm hoping that you can all hear me. I work at a company called EBSCO Information, and most people don't exactly know what that is. Suffice to say, we are the largest search engine for academic research. So we basically have everything that's ever been published, larger even than the Library of Congress. So I deal with a lot of data, and we are building out knowledge graphs to help internal and external users with building out new products according to the subject matter they're looking at.
Can you guys hear me now? Excellent.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Ashley. And Jay, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jay Yu. I'm a distinguished architect at Intuit, who's known, our company is known for TurboTax, QuickBooks, and Mint. I think tomorrow I'm going to have a talk to share our journey to the knowledge graph. It's not an easy journey, and also it's a long journey. We just started. I'll be happy to share all that learnings with everybody here.
Excellent. Thanks, Jay. And Mark, batting cleanup.
Great. Hopefully you can all hear me too. My name is Mark Hall. I'm an executive director at Morgan Stanley, which is so I'm sure you all know, a bank. And for the last 5 or 6 years or so, I've been working in the operational risk area of that organization, dealing with a lot of challenges around collecting fairly subjective and unstructured data and trying to make sense of it. I'm now working in the Data Center of Excellence on the back of the work that was done in operational risk. So that's probably what I'll be mostly talking about today.
Yep, we can go all over the place. Why don't we start? Have each of you guys recall your journey and see if you can remember when you made the pivot and decided you were going to become either data centric or knowledge graph driven or whichever. And Ashley, I know you've been in several organizations. Jay and Mark have pretty much stayed still for a while, but why don't you go first and pick one of the transitions that you got behind?
No, thanks, Dave. Thanks for pointing that out too. I've had to start the data-centric knowledge graph kind of approach in at least 3 different companies at this point, and I've successfully launched them. So that means I think I'm doing something right. And usually the start of that journey is when there is a problem that people are trying to solve or have already solved that is highly dependent on a lot of different complex relationships. That's kind of always the trigger for me, is if there's a lot of different types of relationships, you can use relational to do that. It probably won't be effective. And that's usually your toehold in, because you can show, oh, this is how you're doing it in relation. If you modeled it this way, here's the efficiencies that you can gain from that. So that's usually where I start. And that usually gets people's attention because they can save time, money, or some kind of other resource that they find valuable. So that's usually where I start.
Cool. And Jay, and if you could weave in, I remember the first time we met, one of the quotes you had, and I want to see if you can weave this in to how you kicked this off. And tell me if I'm misquoting you, but I think you said that 99.9% of all developers are opposed to this idea. Did you say, is that a good quote? And given that, how did you get this thing going?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Dave, for bringing up that quote. I think one of the key challenges is developer adoption. Whenever you had a big enterprise, how do we want to move to this brand new area not many people are familiar with? So for us, I think in this case, first of all, let me also make sure I cannot claim complete success yet. We're still on the journey. The journey may take forever, but we're making some progress. Let's put it that way. I don't want to share setting up the right expectation. But the second thing for us is really about, I think it's similar to what Ashley mentioned. You have to focus on the unique value proposition of this, because people have to understand why you want to be there. You have to be really clear about why what you're doing is aligned with the business objective in whatever the use case you're focusing on. Because that's actually for us, I think, at Intuit, I'm not the first one, not the only one driving this. I think before me, there's many attempts, bottoms up, tops down. I think none of those went very far because we're lacking a specific strategic focus and direction. And the good news is I'm able to make some progress because I was involved in enterprise architecture initiative. Looking at what the company trying to accomplish, we actually concluded we need a very clean data architecture and strategy. And that's where we say, hey, can we also take another step? Can we elevate data to knowledge? Is there additional benefit beyond just the normal way of, connect clean data and connect data together? Can we connect them in a more semantic way, in a more rich way? Can we demonstrate benefit of that? So that's actually one thing. There is alignment to the strategy. The second one, I think later on I can explain a little bit more, is along that, you always have early adopters. You always have passionate people want to actually try it out first, right? Then the early success, early use case you want to latch on, then you use that, try to drive the adoption. But even though today, I would say still 90% of the developers still don't quite understand, don't know why we want to move it now. So it's still ongoing journey, but at least we have some initial success.
Excellent. Well, I want to come back to that in a little bit, but Mark, you want to tell us about your journey? And I know you've made some pivots here recently. Can you fill us in?
Sure. I'll echo the thoughts of Jay and Ashley about being on the journey. But as the Buddha says, it is better to travel well than to arrive. So I think that it is all about the journey. I think that when I realized, or when this first dawned on me, the idea of using semantic modeling and graphs was trying to solve a specific problem with creating a repository of control. It sounds pretty mundane, but we had a situation where every time somebody wanted to do an assessment of some kind of control for the purpose of risk, whether it be audit, compliance, operational risk, self-assessment, whatever it might be, that they were redocumenting and rephrasing that control every time they did it. So you ended up with hundreds of thousands of discrete descriptions of things. And what we didn't know is whether those things were the same things, and it just kind of perpetuated it, etc. So we already had pretty good taxonomies and some reference data, and there was some controlled vocabulary. But I was trying to come up with a way of creating a library of things that people did, which in this case were controls, that could be consistent, easily understood, indexed well, searched well, etc. And I was just playing around on a spreadsheet, and I realized, well, it's someone does something for some purpose. And I kind of drew it all out and started creating drop downs. And I was explaining the idea to somebody, and they said, hey, those things look like triples. I'm like, what's a triple? Oh, we're actually looking to introduce ontologies, an ontology, and we're going to use a triple store. And they just started talking through what it was that they were doing. And within a few minutes, I was hooked. So that's how this really started. But the idea was to have this repository that people could understand, and starting off from what is the thing that we want to describe and how do we want to use it, So it was the first time I had an opportunity to kind of get away from what are the applications doing, and just look at it purely from the information perspective. So that's how the journey started.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I especially like, and I think the folks at home probably like